Welcome everyone to Chats with Cara and
Renee,
we have our tea ready and get your tea ready.
we're about to dig in.
Again, here we go.
Recently, a hot topic in South Africa has been about xenophobia.
Yeah.
That's kind of rearing its ugly head again.
Yet
And
again, here
how
we are.
it contrasts, or not contrasts, but is compared with Afrophobia, which a lot of people are arguing that what we're experiencing isn't actually xenophobia, it's more Afrophobia.
I totally agree with that. I actually think it's very important to differentiate between the two, because I think that when we call something xenophobia, and this has been written about in academia as well, that it's such a broad term and it doesn't exactly describe the issues I think that are happening in South Africa. For example, my point is that in South Africa, when we use the word xenophobia, what we're referring to is violence by Black South Africans targeting Black Africans from other countries, whereas xenophobia in general could also be used to mean just white South Africans targeting Greek people, for example, right? That could be termed xenophobia, and probably would be, but it's very interesting here in South Africa that very specific groups are targeting other very specific groups, right? So the victims are mostly the victims of Afrophobic attacks in South Africa in the current time that we're actually referring to here are Mozambicans, Malawians, Somalis, Zimbabweans. This is not an exclusive list, but those are the ones that frequently come up in the news. And it's not just physical assault, but it's murder, and in certain cases it's extremely violent murder, such as burning people alive.
Necklacing that we saw
during apartheid.
Absolutely. Point of clarification, I just want to touch on the definitions that the literature has kind of established.
Yes, let's do it.
Generally, the literature and the research kind of defines xenophobia as the fear, dislike, or hostility toward people perceived as foreigners or outsiders. So it's attitudes, prejudices, and behavior that rejects, exclude, and vilify people based on the perception that they are outsiders.
Okay.
Versus Afrophobia,
okay,
which is a term that many South African scholars prefer.
Yes.
Because it kind of describes how it's very selective.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a most cited definition from Calvin and Tafira, which says that Afrophobia is the fear and or dislike of Africans and their culture. So it is framed as attacks of African, Black people against other Black people who belong to the community but are seen as socially or culturally inferior.
I see.
Because they're not from that group.
Right. So it would be naive of us to say that Afrophobia is, I think it would be naive to say, oh, it's just Africans against other Africans. What do you mean? You know, it always irritates me very much when people go, oh, they're African. Like, Africa is a huge continent.
Yeah, like what does it mean if you say you're European?
European. Or
are you Bulgarian?
Yeah.
Are you French?
Hey.
it's not similar. There's so many vast differences between those cultures.
Yeah, absolutely. Even between Black cultures within South Africa. Yeah. Like we're one country and yet we have 11 official languages. Official. Yeah. Not counting the unofficial ones.
Yeah.
We have, and all of those are pretty much associated with their own cultural and ethnic groups.
Yeah. I also really like this distinction by a theologian, Rothney Chaka.
Ooh.
I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Rothney, let us know in the comments below.
So he said that xenophobia is fear of the other. Afrophobia is fear of a specific other. The Black other from north of the Limpopo River.
Ooh.
Which, I think that creates a very good kind of geographical delineation for the trends that we have been seeing.
That's a good point. We should insert a map in the editing insert map of the Limpopo River for those of us who are unaware where it is.
Yeah.
But that's very interesting, and I think it's a quality description. I really think that really makes it very clear that if you are from Zimbabwe, if you are from Mozambique, these are all our northern borders, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Malawians are also highly targeted. There's a big Malawian community in South Africa.
Big Somalian community.
Big Somali community. In Johannesburg, when I volunteered there at the Jesuit Refugee Society many years ago, I taught English there. It was a wonderful experience to teach English to refugees in South Africa and asylum seekers. And I had no idea how huge the communities of Somalis is here. It's massive, and like I think that you and I, in our being white women she's from the Free State people, and I'm from Johannesburg, from two very different areas. But my point is that we don't necessarily mingle with the Somali communities in South Africa. We don't. It just doesn't happen. Like these groups it's natural.
No, there's no place where our lives would naturally link,
cross over
at all.
Not in a religious way.
Yeah. Not in any cultural sense.
Not not in a linguistic sense. Geographically, also no, because these groups, as far as I can tell, foreigners in South Africa. African foreigners tend to live in specific geographical areas, and again I'm going to refer back to my time at the Jesuit Refugee Society, where we would document where the different asylum seekers and refugees were living at the time of their coming to us to get registered, and registered with us, just so that we can know who our English students were. And it would be so clear that, okay, the Somali community, they all live in this one location, that some random place in Johannesburg that I had never heard of, because Joburg is so huge. Okay, they tend to live together there, which makes sense. You have support in your own community. This is natural to want to be with people that are like you. It's natural. I'm not saying that we should divide people.
No,
not at all. That is not what I'm saying, people.
But we naturally seek people who understand us, who speak our language, who understand our culture.
Correct. Our religion.
Yeah, so that there's like a common ground and understanding
definitely
of each other.
Yeah.
And me having been an immigrant as well in my life, I understand that kind of pull that you have towards people who are from your country and from that understand your context to a degree.
Oh, absolutely. I also experienced that when I lived overseas. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think it's a natural phenomenon that we're seeing. But I do think so. This is coming back to the Afrophobia that we've been experiencing since 2008, when it first really, really blew up into where we were seeing
violence and
the start of like physical violence against the out group from the in group. So that was what was I saying? What was the point of that? Anyway, I think that it's very clear sometimes when these violent these periods of violence against African immigrants, for example, in Johannesburg, when they spur up, they'll be in specific geographic locations. It's not just, the entirety of Johannesburg, right? Or the entirety of Hillbrow, which is just one suburb that I'm recalling, or Braamfontein, which is another suburb. It's very much localized, as far as I can tell. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but it seems to always be localized to where the certain groups of immigrants are based in certain areas. So I think that can help us in our predictions a little bit of if we're predicting violence against, if we're predicting Afrophobia and Afrophobic violence. Because I think there is a distinction also to make here. It's not just Afrophobia in the sense of, there's this ideological clash and fear of it, but we don't do anything physical. The reason that this is such a hot topic in South Africa, and as it should be, I think, is because it leads to actual violence and killing of people, which is the issue, right? So, what do you think? Do you have any anything to add to that?
So much
Let's hear it.
to say. So many thoughts. First, I want you to maybe comment a bit on the in-group versus out-group distinction and where that comes from, because that's really interesting, and it gives such a good kind of just way of understanding why something like xenophobia, Afrophobia happens.
Yes.
And aside from that, maybe in South Africa, why there is kind of a rift maybe between different groups.
Interesting. I'll start with that one first because I think that's easier. Yeah, it's tough to say what actually causes the rift, but I did recently read that in post-apartheid South Africa, this is post-1994 for our foreign audience, there was this big push to just nationalize everybody, right? As it should be. So everyone we were like, cool, we are all South Africans, we all belong in the country, which is right. It's not wrong. That was the whole revolution, was we are all South African regardless of your faith, religion, color, language. Exactly. We are all equals because we all belong to the country. And I always like that our constitution even says that. It says something like this constitution, it says that South Africa belongs to all those who live in it. And I just think that is such a brilliantly beautiful line. I really like that. But I read that this is one of the reasons why xenophobia is present in modern day South Africa, just because there was no real distinction. Like you were almost branded as you're South African, end of story, right? You're not Zulu, you're not Xhosa, you're not Afrikaans, you're not Greek, you're not Lebanese, because these are all you're not Venda, you're not Pedi, you are South African, right? They didn't say that you weren't allowed to feel your cultural identity, correct? But it was very much like, cool, everybody, we are now, very much all South African. And some scholars have argued that this kind of led to people wanting to even more kind of go into their little groups for security, protection, to be like, well, I'm going to use my own ethnicity as an example. Of course, I'm still an Afrikaans person. I am South African, but I'm still Afrikaans. Like often we will say to each other, yeah, of course, we're all South Africans here. But then again, maybe some people will come and say, well, I'm Venda and you're Xhosa, or you're Afrikaans, or I'm Afrikaans and you're English, so we're not the same. You know what I mean? She is not English, but my point is...
Yeah, but there is...
Do you know what I mean?
I think it is important to kind of have respect for those cultural differences. Have respect for that. Yeah,
and we can't just pretend that doesn't exist, right? And so I think that blatant kind of sweeping it all and putting it all under one umbrella and saying we're all South African... I'm finding it difficult to explain it because I don't fully grasp it, but the literature does tend to it does explain some of this, and it does highlight that was one of the causes of why xenophobia is so I remembered something now. What they argued was that we're South African and everyone else isn't, right? And we are all the same because we are South African, and outside, and that kind of created that constructed the identity of, okay, we are the in group because we are South Africans, right? And these scholars argue that identity of we're the in group, we are South African, and everyone else isn't, and therefore they are the out group, right? And I can see that kind of reflected in these xenophobic attacks, because the motivation when you see on the news, and you hear on the news, you hear the people talking from, for example, most recently, I remember very clearly the Operation Dudula group, which we can speak about separately, but their whole thing was, okay, we are South African. For example, they were stopping African foreigners from using public health care in South Africa, physically stopping them at the doors to the hospitals and physically removing them. And these people didn't have the authority to remove them. They're not the police and they're not the armed forces, which was actually what the ruling was from the court here, because the case went to court. So that's an example of like, well, we're South African and this public health care belongs to us, and we should be
benefiting from it.
We should be only.
Yeah.
Whereas the constitution, there is some rule somewhere. I did read it when I was reading about the court case that the public health sector is there for everyone. It's for everyone who is in the country. You're allowed to use it, right? It is not illegal for foreigners.
So this
to
just
use the
reminded me of something. I read the other day, and I cannot remember the details about it at all. But basically, it was about Ubuntu is dead.
Ooh, okay, elaborate.
Which is kind of heavy.
Yeah, that made me even go like this.
Yeah. No,
Sure.
it is heavy because as a country, we have been kind of proud of this
definitely
idea of Ubuntu and this concept and way of living, really, that encourages inclusiveness. Taking care of the other.
Yes.
And I am because we are. It's a very kind of inclusive thing.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
We have strayed as a country so far from that.
Yeah.
And I think if we look at the context that individual South Africans on ground level go through, it is easy to understand why that has happened.
I think so too. Definitely.
Because life is not easy. I mean, we're sitting at with the highest unemployment records levels in the world, which is mind-blowing.
It is.
We have some of the highest crime rates. We're the rape capital of the world. Like, we have some of the most unsafe, murderous cities in the world. Our economy is so, like, it's stagnated. It's not growing.
It's not growing. It's tough.
So there are a lot of things working against us. Normal people who are just trying to survive. And if there's a narrative that's being pushed out by different groups like Operation Dudula, like political parties, all of these organizations, they use very inflammatory language that increases this kind of division between the in-group and the out-group.
Absolutely.
And it's not even necessarily anymore, I mean, the distinction and divisions that's created within South Africa between South Africans is a whole other thing, but now it's divisions that's created
between South Africa and everyone, all the countries outside of them. So it's this macro thing. So what I'm getting from that is maybe we have micro issues, which is between South Africans within the country, which still exists, and we're not going to pretend that it doesn't exist. All kinds of issues, economic, political, racial, all of these. But then, so on top of that, now we have this problem where even the African Union is getting involved. There was a statement. I remember recently the Mozambican, a representative of Mozambique, I think it was the president, but someone representing their government, publicly stated concern for the Mozambican citizens in South Africa. People have even subsequently been evacuated from South Africa, repatriated home by their home countries such as Ghana, I think Zimbabwe, Nigeria. Ghana and Nigeria for sure have both repatriated
and now we're
their
sitting
people.
With recently, just last month, these violent events that occurred in the Western Cape, in communities where these events haven't occurred in the past. So we had, and this is still, I feel like it should be classified as xenophobic or Afrophobic events in Mossel Bay. And then also in Kleinmond, we had these people, their shacks were burnt down. They were attacked. A lot of foreigners. They had to literally flee.
Flee their homes into the mountains. I read an interview where one person, they interviewed this man who had his house was being attacked and there was a mob of South Africans within his area. This was in Claremont, I think, and he said, okay, I have to take my child. He had a child and his wife, and I want to stress that he was a peaceful person. He didn't instigate the violence, right? Which is a whole other thing. But my point is that he had to flee into the nearby mountains. There are very huge mountains in that area. Fled into the mountains, and then when things calmed down, returned and was then being housed in a local community hall. Might have even been the like civic center of the area or something. But he and other immigrants, there were images of them all sitting inside this shelter now. But it's so sad to see, and so disappointing to see that people in South Africa, we are not at war, right? We are not at war, and yet look at all of these issues. And we are not saying South Africa is the worst. No, we are saying this because we see potential in it that we can see the growth that South Africa has done in the past, and we see a really bright future for our country.
Yeah, and I think this is not what most South Africans want.
No,
most South Africans don't want there to be violent attacks against foreigners.
No, we don't. It's a small group of people who've decided that this is now.
We are for good legislation being in place.
Yes.
We are for good policies being in place.
Absolutely.
But ultimately, I think most South Africans are pro peace,
absolutely,
and coexisting.
Yeah, definitely.
And most South Africans, I think, don't feel Ubuntu is dead.
No, I think if we pulled someone off the street and asked them if Ubuntu was dead, they would say no. What do you mean?
I think we're a very caring nation.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we're very warm.
Definitely.
And I think people are being taken advantage of because they have this fear of their own
Renee, we were just talking about the fact that we've noticed that African migrants to South Africa are frequently blamed for South Africa's economic failures, by which I mean high inflation rate, difficulty to get jobs, the economy in general is just suffering. Life in South Africa is not easy, especially for lower class people. And we've noticed that these foreigners are blamed for these macro issues, which I just find completely bizarre, to be honest with you, because and I think, and as people in various news organizations online have also noted, is that these the blaming of African migrants in South Africa for South Africa's economic woes is a way to pass the buck from the people who are actually responsible for it, and to just say, well, okay, the blame has to fall on the illegal foreigners who do jobs, for example, like gardening and domestic work. These are very common jobs, actually.
They're more in the informal sector.
The informal sector, exactly. So we were just saying off camera how unfair this is, and how it seems like a political game, a political strategy, if you will, by various political groups, such as, for example, the March movement. March and March movement, as well as Operation Dudula. Their modus operandus seems to be to blame Black Africans for foreign migrants for South Africa's economic woes, such as I think the rhetoric that we see the most often from xenophobic, Afrophobic people in South Africa is that, oh, they're taking our jobs. That's the go-to line for people, is they're taking our jobs, and we must not only be violent towards them, but we must expel them, okay? Regardless of whether they are registered or not to work within South Africa, these groups just put a blanket statement out. No, well, we gotta kick them out, and this incites violence against them also, because it almost justifies. They use this rhetoric to justify violence against the out group. We were just looking at some data, and just comments from other analysts and from the news. And for example, people were saying that yes, of course, and we do agree with this, right, Renee, that we are absolutely for the enforcement of the South African law.
Yeah.
And when where illegal
and for protection of
borders, where illegal immigration is concerned, of course we want it to be regulated. We're not saying that you must just
open the borders
and
have it be a party.
Absolutely, that is not what we're advocating for, but
we are also advocating for more efficient and effective ways for migrants to be documented.
Absolutely.
To get their documentation so that they continue
to positively contribute.
Exactly,
to the
that
economy.
Is what they're doing.
Absolutely. I think that that there is definitely a negative economic impact to the economy of South Africa if all of the people all of the foreign Africans who are contributing positively to the economy are simply deported, right? There have been groups such as Operation Dudula and March and March movement who specifically advocate for just kicking out all the foreigners, right?
Yeah, all the putting a deadline on them for the 30th of June.
Yes. So this is an interesting.
That they need to leave the country.
Exactly. So they've like made up deadline. For the record, it's not real. The government did not say that by the 30th of June, all the foreigners have to leave South Africa. All the foreign Africans have to leave South Africa. It is not true. Despite a fake AI-generated poster making the rounds on social media.
Yeah.
And the government has said publicly that this is fake.
Yeah.
And yet there are still this deadline is still being pushed and is subsequently now misinformation. This misinformation is being pushed online by groups who are interested in propagating this rhetoric, and I just think that is really insane. That it's unfortunate how quickly this and misinformation spreads these days online.
Yeah. So that brings me to the point that I wanted you to make, since you're our open source intelligence girly.
That's me.
It's really funny to me that this poster that's kind of gained so much traction online and it's been shared on social media about this 30 June deadline that all undocumented foreign nationals must leave the country by then. It's AI generated, which just had me on this little train of thought about how much the way of communication has changed.
Definitely.
And we know, I mean, it's been years. I want to say like 2 decades now that the internet has increased and enabled misinformation and disinformation to spread more easily and more rapidly. But definitely. Now we have other forms of communication.
In the form of closed groups, for example, on WhatsApp, right? That's something we've been thinking about for a while. Like, so in South Africa, as in many other places on the continent and globally as well. I remember when I was working on a project and as an OSINT investigator on a West Africa project, we frequently saw that dis and misinformation, and additionally also legitimate information, was being shared in closed WhatsApp groups. Closed, what do we mean by that? We mean that it's not open source, by which we can't just simply join the group or see their information. Their information isn't just open to the world. You have to join the group. In some cases, that means obviously first you have to have the link to join the group, and how do you get that? Usually by being part of the in-group that is sharing this information, right? Renee and I have been trying to locate some of these groups, but as you can imagine, this is like an OSINT nightmare, because this is getting into the closed source side of things, right? And it's very, very difficult. If there isn't OSINT, open source intelligence, for those who are unaware, OSINT about, let's say, this poster, the propaganda that's being shared within these groups, it's so hard to get information about what's exactly being said in the groups that are not only spreading the information, but the poster, but also maybe, certainly I would say, discussing the issues, right? It's so hard as an OSINT analyst, if you've been trained to look for open information and data that is accessible and viewable to everyone, you just need to know how and where to look. It's so hard when we are tasked with doing things, for example, such as trying to find closed source groups that we can join, especially if you're not part of the in group, right? We're in the out group here as analysts, as objective people, also perhaps as not being part of the ethnic and
as white
Afrikaans girls, people.
we're not part of the group that's gonna rally together and protest against illegal immigrants.
Exactly. So we are in the out group, and there's a language barrier. There's a massive language
huge
thing. Absolutely. The people who are organizing these, who are propagating this poster and this rhetoric, they are
not
Not Afrikaans.
We only have about 3.5 million immigrants.
Yeah.
In comparison to our population, that's like 63 million. So it's a very small percentage. Because most of these, and this is I hate making a broad generalized sweeping statement like this, but a lot of the immigrants work in the informal sector. They work as domestic workers, they work on farms, in the agricultural sector.
Absolutely.
And there has a bill that's been introduced that proposes foreign worker quotas and tougher penalties and fines for people who employ foreigners that are
undocumented. I can see where this is coming from,
which is obviously understandable.
It is understandable,
but it does also create kind of a concerning kind of position.
And kind of rhetoric again that foreign nationals, we must crack down on foreign nationals in the country, right? You are never going to be able to police all of the people who employ foreign nationals.
The thing about this bill, that kind of is upsetting to me. Mostly.
Okay.
It says that before recruiting a foreign worker, employers must first establish that there is no suitably qualified South African citizen, permanent resident, refugee, or asylum seeker available to fill the position.
Jeez, that's asking a lot. I mean, firstly, that's really difficult logistically, and no one is. Let's be honest. If I'm going to employ a foreigner, or what is it? If I want to employ a foreigner, I must first I must first see if there's none of those people available.
So my question is, first of all, how are you going to prove that you actually followed those processes?
And who's going to check it? Secondly,
how is this going to be enforced?
Yeah.
And if it's not going to be enforced properly, again, it's just creating
the precedent.
Exactly.
Yeah, that foreign workers are foreign African workers. Let's be honest. That's
what it is.
What it is about. That they are. And
no one is going to ask a British person working in South Africa, where's your papers? Generalized sweeping statements are being made against foreigners, Black African foreigners in South Africa.
Yeah.
And it creates a mob mentality.
100%. It sweeps people up.
Yeah.
And
it creates a mob mentality which becomes uncontrolled and uncontrollable and results in actual loss of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the tragedy of it all comes in, and where I think that's also again why people should care, is because people are losing their lives. This is a huge problem, and it feels like a never-ending list of problems in South Africa, but it does. People are talking about it. People are actually making plans to try and curb it. It seems that the government is making an effort. It just, sometimes I wonder if it's too little too late, and if this legislation shouldn't have come in
20 years ago
2008 already, you know? Absolutely. So
yeah, I think because we had seen like intense violence
yes,
in 2008 with
Absolutely.
hundreds of people who died.
absolutely. Yes.
And nothing really was done since then. For 18 years, nothing was done by the ruling government to really put structures and measures in place to prevent it from
happening again Absolutely.
and also to address the issues that are causing this in the first place.
Absolutely. That's a brilliant point.
Because if people's gripe is that foreigners are taking our jobs, foreigners are flooding our healthcare system, foreigners are cramping the education system, so now our kids don't have place in schools. If those are the concerns, those concerns should be addressed.
Absolutely.
There should be attention paid to what the hell is going on in the education system. Why are the schools so full? Why? I mean, that's not even talking about the standard of education. That's a whole other thing.
Other story, but
why don't we have enough schools? Why don't we have enough teachers?
Why don't we have enough nurses and doctors? Why are they all fleeing? Why
are there hospitals and clinics that are empty and falling apart because of a lack of care, of infrastructure, and putting skilled nurses and healthcare professionals into these clinics and things? I can speak from my own hometown in the Free State, where it used to be a fully functioning hospital. My brother was born there. Fast forward to now, 32 years later.
Wow.
It's basically a defunct community clinic.
You see? Yeah, no, I see. I so agree with that. And I think the scapegoat, it's just another way to motivate violence against African immigrants here is people want someone to blame. Yeah. Right? Which is, I want to say, understandable because, yes, as we are talking here, I'm like, I want someone to blame and I want someone to do something about these issues to fix them so that we all don't have to pay insane private medical things. Anyway, you know, we need to address those real issues instead of scapegoating the foreign Africans who are just working in spaza shops on the corner, who are cleaning people's houses.
Who are coming from worse situations in their own countries.
Definitely. Why are they in South Africa in the first place? Because it was so bad there, they had to leave. Yeah. Some of the refugees that I worked with in at the Jesuit Refugee Society in Johannesburg were from the DRC. They were from Eastern DRC.
They literally fled war.
Exactly. They fled Islamist violence. Yeah. And they testified to me, they told me their stories of why and how they came to South Africa. And
trying to survive and make a better life for themselves. Yeah. And just being subjected to
violence again. Yeah. To the place that you came where you thought there was prosperity and
where you would be safe.
You would be safe. Yeah. Because South Africa is safer in the terrorism, let's speak of the terrorism context specifically, because I mentioned Eastern DRC, in Ituri and North Kivu provinces. Recently, notably, Islamic State expanded south to don't remember the name, but they expanded into a third province in Eastern DRC, and so we don't have those issues here. So you would think we don't have an active Islamic State cell carrying out attacks in remote areas of the country. That is not currently the situation, despite South Africa being a staging ground for operations for Islamic State in other countries. Attacks here aren't actually taking place yet. And yet, these poor people, they're fleeing from that specific situation where they were persecuted, many of them Christians. We're getting into a whole other topic here, but my point is, fleeing, telling me that when I was there, okay, we fled violence and now we're afraid of violence here in South Africa, and we thought we were going to be safe.
So I think the key thing that I kind of just realized, and maybe people know this and it's been obvious all along, but instead of kind of projecting and forming kind of a movement and like anger and aggression towards individuals, the focus should just be zoomed out a little bit, just to get a little bit of perspective. Yeah. And all of that can actually be channeled
into good.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
It can actually
Yeah.
be channeled into venting those frustrations
Yeah.
at the ballot box.
Yes.
Because-
Vote for the right people.
Because
people.
why since 2008?
Yes.
And I mean, it's been longer than that.
Yeah.
But why specifically 2008 is just a
Yeah.
good jumping point
Yeah.
to refer back to and to work from.
Yeah, absolutely.
But why has nothing changed? It's been 18
Yeah.
years.
And it's been more than that since 1994.
Yeah,
We're
it's
going
been
into
32 years.
32nd year? Okay.
Yeah, it's 32
Yeah.
years. But aside from that,
Yeah.
in 18 years since 2008, when we had like the really first bad xenophobic incident where hundreds of people were killed,
Yeah.
several hundreds more were displaced.
Absolutely.
And
Their homes burned, for example.
I mean, this is just one issue, but
Yeah.
why have those kind of fueling factors not been addressed? And in fact, it's only gotten worse. I saw an analysis video that by France Cornier,
Oh,
my hero.
shout out to France. Hello, France.
France and Becky.
Hey.
They did kind of a study. Becky Matlobo crunched some numbers, and they found that if our economy had stayed on track to grow by around 4%,
Sure.
as our peers have done since 2008.
Our peers being other countries in a similar economic situation?
Yeah.
Oh, got you, okay.
If our economic growth had continued on that growth track, our unemployment figures would have been around 10%.
No ways.
Which
That
is
is
unbelievably
insane.
scary to think about.
Wow.
That's only from 2008 to now. If we had been able to maintain an economic growth rate of around 4%, which our peers had accomplished, our situation would look vastly different.
Absolutely.
And that is unfortunately what it comes down to. It's about economic growth, it's about investor confidence.
Definitely.
Political stability.
Yes.
And attracting business and growth, which our government has not been able to do. So I think the frustration that groups like Operation Dudula, March and March, are projecting on whether it's undocumented or documented foreign nationals is actually irrelevant. The aggression and the scapegoating that's happening and that's being placed on those people should actually be redirected towards the government.
Yeah, because ultimately they are the ones that are responsible for the social factors that motivate the violence, that are the social factors that are making people angry. Because I don't think there's any way to truly motivate violence against these non-violent immigrants from Africa who are just workers here. Yes, they can't use it. It's not right to use the social issues to motivate violence against these people when those issues are not being caused by them. They're being caused by the greater failures in the government. And the government isn't all bad,
but because it's easier to kind of target those people.
Definitely. Both physically and rhetorically.
Yeah, because they're in the communities. It's not like government or the politicians who are in their fancy little
BMWs
cars driving around
Camps Bay.
It's not kind of this abstract thing that they can't pinpoint.
Absolutely. It's tangible in the literal sense of the word. They can literally go up to these people and vent their frustration at the system. Not that that's right, but that's what appears to be happening.
Yeah.
It's very sad, and I hope that we are recording this before the 30th of June, and who knows, maybe there will be some kind of intervention from state security forces, from the police, to really prevent another wave, another peak of xenophobic violence. Just because we always have to hope that there is something, we can't just lose hope. At least that's what they tell me. But we'll see how it goes, and then we'll have to come back to revisit the topic to do a post a post
30 June.
Post 30 June analysis and come back to what we said. And it's always interesting to go back to your old analysis and look and see, does it line up with what happened eventually? Does it not line up? And what can we learn from that, whether it lined up or not? This is always a nice exercise to do in any kind of intelligence setup, I think. Private, public sector, I think that's a wonderful learning tool to do. So maybe we'll do that and we'll come back and see what happens. Anything else we need to add before we...
I think I've said...
Have you said your piece?
Thanks for joining us today.
This was Chats with Cara
and Renee.
And our tea is finished, which means...
We're done.
Cheers!
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
If you have any thoughts, disagreements, criticisms, agreements,
positive things to say,
or negative.
Just
if you have things to say and you want to add something, let us know.
And we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.